right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the What Matters Most to KAND Family session. I heard that the scientific talk went really well, and I know I and a lot of our families are looking forward to watching the recap, the recording of that session. For KIF1A patients and our family members, we've been spending the last session in some small groups discussing KIF1A life. And, you know, we all know when you're a family member or a patient, how hard that KIF1A life can be. And so our goal now is to really share just a glimpse of our fears and our hopes and ultimately what matters most to us. So first, I'm going to see if Avantika can join us on stage to share a few remarks from her table. And so while we're waiting, I also want to thank our discussion leaders as well for really stepping up and volunteering to not only lead these discussions, but share some of these thoughts from the stage. And if Avantika, if we're still, oh, there she is. Okay. Hey, Avantika.
Oh my
God.
Sorry.
Thank you for being here. And so, yeah, let's just start with you. And can you explain just maybe one or two insights that really stood out at your table that you talked about in the last hour?
Yeah, so we had a great group, and I don't know that this is our final answer because I think other things can contribute to that. But what I really loved is that so many of us just want our kids to have, and I might get emotional, but they just want our kids to be happy and just lead fulfilling lives, and then also just almost like having everybody else recognize how, you know, special and resilient and determined they are, given all of their challenges. But I think in order to sort of get to that, some of these things with treatment that address mobility and cognition and communication and behavior, you know, those are the things that are preventing them from sort of leading those lives. And those are the things that they need to just have, like the basic building blocks of, you know, just human interaction and fulfillment and that kind of thing. So, you know, hoping that, you know, treatment will really address all of those things simultaneously, because they kind of feel just as important as the other, to just, you know, give our kids like the kind of life that they really deserve. So it's mobility, it's cognition, it's communication, and also just, yeah, being, you know, not being frustrated and, you know, not having those muscle tone issues that really do like affect and hurt them.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And a lot of these symptoms can also be interrelated, and one symptom might make another symptom worse. Yeah. So I think that's a really important insight to share. So thank you. So now I want to see if Alejandro can join us. Alejandro is from Spain, and if you read our Science Saturday blog, Alejandro helps us kind of curate that blog that comes out every Saturday. So thank you, Alejandro. And actually, I'm going to switch things up for our tech team too, and I'm going to ask both Alejandro and Maribel to share, each of you share some of the insights from your conversation over the last hour.
Mm-hmm. Hello. And to the first question, what makes KAND so challenging is we all agreed that we are running against the clock. There is a consensus. And to the second question, third question is, I hope treatment can stop degeneration. And second answers could be improve motor skill to the kids who has better cognitive skills right now, and to improve cognitive skill when the kids are in worse condition. And to the last question, what matters most to us is the future, the well-being of our kids when we get older, and also to lose what our kids have achieved. And that's the things we discussed.
Thank you, Alejandro. Maribel, do you want to add anything, or do you think he did a good job covering
it? In the end, we were in the same group, so we were with the same persons. Yeah.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Now we'll have Charlotte come to the stage. And I think, Alejandro, just to wrap that up too, I think your point about, the fear of losing what our kids have built is a particular pain point for a lot of us too. Hi, Charlotte.
Hello, everyone.
Charlotte is Andy's mom, but also our administrative manager for the organization. And so thank you, Charlotte, for everything you've done to help make this conference possible. So tell us a little bit about what you discussed at your table.
Sure. So our table was very lean. We had 3 people, and all of our children are all different ages, all different journeys along the KAND life. And I think one of the biggest things that we discussed is that despite our different journeys in the disease, we can all relate to each other's challenges, worries, priorities. We can relate to what we are really concerned with, even with treatment, the unknowns of treatment. And, we all want health, inclusion, normalcy for our children. And I think that was probably the biggest thing that we talked about, is just that everything that we listed, we had such a huge list. Every single thing we could all relate to in some way. And so there was also a really big discussion about, it really comes down to, as a community, educating and raising awareness, because that's really what grows the funding opportunities and the investment in our children, and in KIF 1A research and therapeutics. So that was the majority of it. It was a really great discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Charlotte, and Charlotte's small table for coming away with some really powerful insights. So thank you.
Yeah.
Next, I want to bring Ennio to the stage.
Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
With 2 lovely Poland parents, and the main findings was about how difficult it is in Poland, also in Italy, to find engaged people, both on doctor sides and on therapist side, because maybe sometimes they see the situation as hopeless, I don't know, but it's very hard to find engaged people, mostly on doctor side in Italy. And about this, the worries, of course, is about the future and the generative aspects, in particular because you fear that the small improvements that you can reach so hardly can be lost in the next days. And so this is very hard. And about treatment, we hope for sure to have the desire to stop degeneration, but in the meantime, also about therapies, in care, waiting for the cures. Maybe we can share more about the best practices in therapies, in particular about therapies. In Italy, but also in Poland, we found very, very difficult to engage doctors and therapists in the correct physiotherapist activities. And about what matters more for sure, making my K1A child just happy. But we think that something very important could be to share a medical product that can be used also in Europe, I don't know, in Italy, in Poland, or in the other European states. So for instance, it's impossible to have an EEG of 20. It's very useful. And so I think that maybe could be very useful to have best practices, like a protocol, could be used for monitoring, for exams, and also for the therapies or the activities that best can fit with our children's situation.
Thank you for sharing that. You know, I think that Dr. Chung's really tuning into that part of your conversation, because that's something that I know we all want, is some care guidelines. And I think we'll hear a little bit more about that development during tomorrow's session. So
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Audrey, could you come to stage, please? Yeah, right now, and again, I think we'll talk a little bit about this more tomorrow, but it's really hard whenever we're trying to help our kids live their best life and have their best care when there is no consensus on care guidelines right now. So it makes it extra challenging. Hi, Audrey.
Hi.
Thank you for being with us. Yeah, I'll go ahead and let you share a little bit of your discussion.
Yeah, so we only had a small table with 3 families and with different ages, 3, 7, and 29. So it was quite interesting to compare the situations from different countries and different mutations. But I think the important message is we all worry about decline, vision decline, especially when the kids have CVI or optic nerve atrophy, and motor decline. I know 2 of the kids are really young, and we don't know if they will lose the ability to walk, since they still fall a lot. We worry about seizures, about bathroom training. The adults said the cognitive ability was quite stable, so I think it's encouraging to see that. And she can live independently. She has a job, so it's good to have a nice outcome like that. And to conclude, she said she was a cheerleader. She said, "Just K1A, go away." And I really like this sentence. I think we all want our kids to be happy, to perform the activities they like swimming pool, horse, whatever, and surrounded by people who are very nice with them. And as parents, I think we fight a lot for everything. We have so many appointments all the time. I think it could be nice if we can find a cure before decline, to avoid all these appointments and to save the abilities.
Really good point. Thank you, Audrey, for leading that discussion. You know, you had an insightful conversation, especially with Janie at your table. I know that a lot of us look up to her in the community, so thank you to Janie as well for being here today. Can Kassondra come to stage, please? And I think, you know, as we've heard from Leah today in the natural history study discussion, you just having more older children and adults join the community, we're able to kind of fill in some of these gaps in what we know about KIF1A. So Kassondra, thank you for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about what you discussed at your table?
Yeah, so my table had a a lean table as well. We did have 4. I thought it was a pretty unique perspective. We had 1 grandmother and 3 parents, 3 families. And the thing that really stuck out throughout nearly every question, nearly every answer was the aspect of time and the different time constraints. So not only having a lot of appointments and being busy, but what is the balance between advocating for needs and advocating with kif1a.org versus spending time with your immediate family and with your kids at home and having time for your marriage and nurturing those relationships within your nuclear family. And the other thing that we talked about time related was how much time is too much time in therapy. When do you let your child just be a child, and when do you stop pushing them, or when do you give them a break, and all the car rides and the long hours and those sorts of things. So the topic of time really came up a lot. The unknowns about time. How much time do we have? And every case is different and progresses at a different time. So that was the thing that really stuck out the most. And I would say lastly, in regards to time as well, 2 of the families had more than 3 kids. I think one family had 5 and one family had 4. So how do you balance time between all of your children and the siblings of, your kiddo with KAND?
Thank you for sharing that. And I'll let Josh make his way to the stage, but I have to say, I think over the last year and a half, time has been an even more challenging factor with, COVID and, that work-life balance. What is that? On top of KIF1A, and then you add COVID, and it's been a hell of a year for a lot of people, I think.
Amen.
So, hey, Josh, thanks for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about the conversations you had at your table?
Hey, I'm sorry, I didn't hear anything you said.
Okay, no, it's okay. You didn't need to hear any of it.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about the conversations you had at your table?
Yes, just that we realized that we're all unique, and that most of us in our group had adults. I'm an adult with KIF1A, and we had other adults with KIF1A, and that there is hope out there for others, because we are older and we're still going through everything, and that most of our lives we didn't know what was wrong with us. Just that we've I'm not sure. Having answers now gives us hope and somewhere to start. As far as the questions, what we're worried about is keeping our children motivated to continue to exercise and to continue to just stay active, because we found out that some of our children don't want to do difficult things. They don't want to exercise if it's difficult. So we have to keep our children motivated, and then for me, it's what I'm worried about is having mobility when I'm older. I have mobility now, but it's because I exercise, and maybe in the future that may not be the case as well. What do we hope for treatment will help with? Preventing future declines is a big one. Another person said everything. Motor, optical, like seeing and thinking. And then I put muscle cramps, because I still have muscle cramps from time to time. And then what matters most to me, is that making sure that our children just have a happy life. Like someone else said, just remember that they're children and let them just be children.
Yeah.
And that just remind our children that they're loved and that you know, they're loved for and accepted, and that's a big thing.
Yeah.
So
thank you, Josh. That's really meaningful to a lot of us. I know we all love that you're here, and you're one of our trailblazers. But yeah, I mean, your comments about you know, on the one hand, we want to motivate our kids, and they have to work hard in order to play. You know, they have to do a lot of physical therapy, a lot of physical activity that, you know, most adults aren't motivated to do either.
yeah.
But that balance, you know, there's, especially the younger ones, they're still kids. And it reminds me of some of the comments we had just a little while ago about how much therapy is too much. You know, can we just let our kids just sit and play? Sometimes is all we really want, and for them to be happy. So thank you, Josh, for sharing.
You're very welcome.
Yeah. Charisma, can you make your way to the stage now? Yeah, and I see Kassondra saying she's so grateful for your perspective, Josh. I know a lot of us echo that, so thank you.
You're very welcome.
Charisma, tell us a little bit about your table discussion.
Okay, so my table, we felt like you strategically put us together. That's what we decided. We all had a little bit older kids. Mine was the youngest, Cam's 9, so kind of like preteen to teenage. And the 4 things that we came up with that we found were similar in our group was that we're all very much dedicated, as well as our kids. We're very focused on, you know, just kind of making them who they want to be, what they want to be, do what it is that they feel like they want to do. The resilience, we found that our, you know, the people in our group were very, very resilient, as well as our kids. And positivity, we all had more positive outlook on things. Now, our kids were, you know, when I look at KIF 1A as a spectrum, I would say we're kind of on that side of the spectrum where they don't have, I wouldn't say as many disabilities, but, you know, it's not as severe as some others. You know, but we did find that, you know, even what we deal with, you know, for us is, you know, quite a bit, but we still have to find like some hope and some positivity. So in our group, I actually added a little thing, and we wrote down the greatest strengths. And we also wrote down some goals, and, you know, it gave even me some things to look forward to. Like they talked about their children learning to drive, making and keeping friends, careers in the future, just kind of some of the things that we're not yet thinking about with our younger kids. But, you know, one family, they had a girl, so they have to deal with, you know, the teen girl along with KIF 1A. And for those of you with a teen girl, you know, that in itself is a lot. So, you know, but just having hope. And then another thing that we wanted to focus on was, how do you tell other people your child has KIF 1A without them just taking pity on you, like, you know. So that was another thing that we discussed, and, you know, we were pretty proud of our group.
Thank you. And I appreciate your hopeful perspective too, and your outlook. It's such a good reminder. You know, the future is full of uncertainty, and that can mean, you know, we're not sure about all the scary negative things that might happen, but we don't know all the positive things that might happen too. And I think we tend to focus on the negative.
Yeah, one of the, I guess, takeaways that we also found was that our kids are so special. Everywhere they go, everyone they meet, they, light up the room. People gravitate towards them, people of all ages, origin, everything. And they've taught us so much. We're different people, some of the families are stronger. They are the glue that hold us together.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now I want Shannon to come to the stage, and bye to Cameron too, who I see in the background. Hey, Shannon. Thanks for joining us, and I know we're going to hear more from you tomorrow, but take yourself off mute, and then I'm going to have you tell us a little bit about your table conversation.
We had a great table, and a couple unique things that were brought up that were interesting was, one, the emotional consideration of having the conversation with kids that are cognitively able to understand that they're different, and how to explain KAND to them, and what to explain and what's safe to explain. And, that was like a org little asterisk of like, maybe we need to link to resources for that, like how to approach those conversations, what to share, when to share, how to share it. It was a lot of commiserating about just how hard it is to be a caregiver for somebody with KAND. And we had some great participation in the recommendation to, make, we're all excited about the scientific community and the efforts they're working on with treatments, but the difficulties we're facing caring for our loved ones now with the disease, and how exhausting we all already are caring for our kids, and then to be taxed with navigating Medicaid waivers and appeals and insurance companies, and trying to fund a wheelchair van, and all of these things that we're all fighting to do, and maybe trying to create and classify and ways for people to like coalesce by state or region or country, so that every person diagnosed with KIF1A isn't recreating the wheel. And we're so happy that we're connected so that we can share information with one another. But that was interesting. And then the other thing that I haven't thought of, because denial is healthy coping sometimes, is bullying, and how to approach that and explain that to your loved ones. So those were some of the interesting points. Did I miss anything? Am I doing okay, Kat? What do you need from me?
That's great. I think it just reminds me we have to do it all. We're working really hard to build this better, brighter future, but we, in the, everyday life, we have these struggles, whether it's something as awful as fighting with insurance on the phone for 2 hours of a day, because, we all have extra time on our hands, to, trying to figure out how to explain to your kid's sibling, what's going on, to bullying, to finding a caregiver, a babysitter is super hard. It's all those things at once that we have.
A different thing that you just reminded me of, we also talked about like the guilt. If you're are the caregiver of a child with KIF1A and other siblings or children, just like, sometimes it's appropriate that they stay home. You do different things with your other kids, and, the work balance of include them and have them be miserable, or leave them home and keep them separate, and how to navigate all that. Anecdotally, I will say, as a nurse practitioner that works in pediatrics, if you live in a state that has pediatric palliative care, I am a huge advocate for reaching out to them, because their role, if you can get past the idea of palliative care feeling like terminal and scary, is really to help you navigate these difficult questions about how much therapy is too much therapy, or is this a good decision, or is this a good treatment? And they're used to navigating these tricky situations and difficult diagnoses and unclear futures. And I myself am establishing, hopefully next month, with palliative care for Sadie, and I'm hoping that that relationship is going to take some heat off of me as mom and decision maker, and caregiver, and healthcare provider. And so that's a thought that I'm just throwing out there. But yeah, it was a great group session, and it was really nice to connect virtually.
Yeah, we'll do this in person next time.
Yeah,
but
more hugs.
Yeah, thank you, Shannon. And I think we probably need to have a meeting after this conference so we can talk about some of those resources that we can kind of brainstorm on. But I think just based on the chat, your conversation is really resonating with a lot of people. So thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and so now, since we already had Maribel up with Alejandro, I want to see if Angela will come to the stage. Hey, Angela. So thank you for being here. And can you tell us a little bit about the chat at your table?
Yeah, so our table was also small, and it was a group of bereaved families. So our perspective on things might be a little bit different than others. But what I thought was really interesting was that even though all of our kids were severely affected, they had different variants. Our journeys were different, but we all felt comfort in hearing one another's stories because they were so similar. And that was really nice to hear, because I think when you go through some of the things that we've all gone through, you feel a little bit crazy. Some of the other things that stood out to us, like what made KAND so challenging for us, was the progressive nature. Again, all of our kids were severely affected. And I think when you get that diagnosis and you learn that your child is one of those that are severely affected, the progressive course can almost become like debilitating on the parents. It was very frustrating not knowing how fast things were going to happen. And we all felt that was something that we worried about. Most of the questions that were posted, we felt like we could answer for all of them, if that makes sense. The things that we worried about were the things that made life so challenging for us. Taking care of Gia and the other kids that are affected this severely was challenging, but then also dealing with the emotional part of things, the anticipatory grief, for all of us was really difficult. And I think it's something that we don't really talk about a lot or enough. But anticipatory grief is real. And that was something that we all felt really similar by. And I think another challenge for us was trying to stay present in our days, because we knew our children's lives were going to be cut short. Staying present was really hard for us. We embraced it, and we all know that our kids, for the short period that we had them, lived these beautiful, happy lives. But sometimes it can just be really hard to stay present in those feelings. And then lastly, what matters most to us was all similar in the three families. We all felt that we don't want our children forgotten. That's hard to say. And we, not so much that we don't want other people to forget, we don't. So it means a lot to us when people bring up our children, and we just want people to know that we appreciate it. I think sometimes people feel scared to talk about our kids because they don't want to make us upset, and it doesn't make us upset. We're always thinking of them.
Thank you for sharing that and that reminder. I know there are several people in this community who you may not have even came across other than maybe a random comment in the private Facebook group who think of Gia and all the others every day.
Yeah.
And so we won't forget them for sure.
Thank you.
So thank you, Angela, and everyone for sharing just these most precious thoughts. We really appreciate you sharing your perspective. And again, I hope that this can provide a glimpse into, what's really weighing on the hearts and minds of KIF1A families everywhere. So with that, I will hand it over to Dr. Dom for some closing remarks. Thank you all.